I miss you already. It's a good thing we did this. It's a real good thing we did this. And that's what I got for you. Stay cool. Be well. And just because I'm not here doesn't mean you can get away without keeping your goddamn hands clean. So please, for the love of all that is holy, wash your fucking hands. Be good.
Meeting Malcolmus, a pavement podcast, is a weekly affair.
Hold up. That was last week. That was last episode. That was the finale. You know? This is a new episode. It's 116, pods and prologues. So I got a prologue for you. And it's going to knock your fucking socks off. Are you ready? Let's get to it.
Welcome to Meeting Malcolmus, a pavement podcast.
I want to set.
How are you doing now that the voyage is over of the podcast?
You know what? It's well, this sort of threw a curveball at me, you know. But it was a fun trip. Like, it was a really, I didn't know that it was a genre of podcasts. There's a whole bunch of other podcasts apparently that, you know, go through an artist's catalog one by one. But I discovered that along the way. But it's sort of a fun way to revisit your fandom, you know, like to just start at the start and listen to records again. Listen to records, right?
You there still?
Yep.
Oops. Lost you for a second. Now you're back.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can see that. I mean, maybe not having any rule books makes it hard, but maybe you listen to some other ones and and just learn as you go. Feedback from other people, what they want to hear, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff is important. I mean, what was important to me too, though, like I've done a few podcasts at this point now, was for there to be some sort of story. So I got to ask you right off the bat, how does it feel to be a narrative device of an indie podcast?
I mean, I think all bands, musicians are happy to have people taking their art seriously enough to want to talk about it and share it in a that way, you know, that it's not just background music or just music, you know. It like bleeds into our lives in other ways. In our relationships and our journeys or whatever. I think that's cool.
Oh, wow. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
And thanks for doing this. This is just phenomenal. Like, I'll get out of my own head here for a second, but this is pretty cool of you to do this.
Well, yeah, some people put some, I saw on my whatever on Twitter, some messages are like, dude, this guy has done a lot of labor and you should really just go on there. And I was like, okay. You're probably right.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know who it was, but just yeah.
Wow, that's like, really cool of them to do that.
Yeah, I would like that too, I guess, if you know, plus it was called Meeting Malcolmus, so I thought, you know, that's would be a little bit weird to not, you know, just put a bow on it this way.
Oh, this is great. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, you know, I'm not and I don't know if you've ever listened to any of this or not, and I wouldn't expect you to, but I'm not an interviewer. I'm not a journalist or anything like that. I'm a fan. I am a podcaster, and I do like telling stories. So I think that this is you're right. Putting a bow on it is a great way to do it. So I've got a few questions I want to
Do
ask, if that's cool.
Yes.
So the first question, which is going to run into another question at some point, is April 20th is coming up, and that's the 30th anniversary of Slanted and Enchanted. Any cool plans? Maybe a cake or something?
I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, certainly that was a start of a different relationship to music culture for Pavement, and like kind of the beginning of what it is now, which is like a lifelong primary pursuit economically, and mainly like that's when we
Right.
got some attention, and we're like we were going to be have to put together a touring, or we were like, well, we should start touring and maybe quit our day jobs type stuff. So
It
yeah,
became real.
up to that point we were just kind of existing as a to make records as a document, or just to be sort of forgotten and then rediscovered, like stuff that we were into at the time, which were maybe more obscure music that was not that. I mean, it's not so far from the Velvet Underground or something, where we're kind of saying, well, maybe someday this will be thought of as odd and artistic, and it will always exist um, in obscure music. But as it turned out, when we did Slant and Enchanted, we realized there was a not necessarily a market, but like ears for a new music for our cohorts and stuff. They were like ready for it, and yeah, like college kids and college radio listeners were ready, or whatever it was at the time. It fit in. So yeah, we got some attention, and here we are today talking about it 30 years later.
Yeah, that's bananas.
I know.
I read an article, like it was a while ago, and it was about how bands used to shy away from, when they were formed, because they didn't want, these milestones to be marked, because it was sort of uncool. And it was around the time that Pearl Jam turned 20, and it was like Pearl Jam is out here celebrating turning 20, and the Rolling Stones would have like absolutely died over that. They would have died. But that leads to my next question, which sort of again counteracts my previous question, which was asking about the past. And it's how hard is it moving forward and growing as an artist when we live in a time that is so goddamn nostalgic and milestone driven? So for example, in 2018, 2019, and 2020, you released a triumvirate of springtime records that were all very different from one another, and two of which were pretty big departures for you. Was this was this strategic creatively, knowing that you were about to devote a year to waxing historic on the road with Pavement?
Not really. The Pavement was not. We hadn't. Maybe there were some talks about. Well, I'd sort of told the guys that we could wait like 10 years if it felt right, do it all over again. And because I was busy with my family, my kids growing up, and also other musical endeavors that, like those 3 records, wasn't really thinking about it in relationship to Pavement specifically. I mean, a lot of music that I like is, well, it pays tribute to influences and nostalgic feelings that you have when you first heard certain music. You're influenced by it, and so I think that's sort of baked into the equation. But I guess it's sort of a slope of what is how you do it, how you how you take your influences or your nostalgia vibes, which we all have, and how you I wouldn't say make it new, but just be clever about it, make it interesting instead of purely just pure nostalgia, or just using signifiers of certain eras, and just maybe trying to get it so right that it becomes almost kitschy. So I guess, I don't know, I went on a different direction than what you were saying.
No. I mean, I like any getting under the hood with songwriting is, kind of a cool thing for a nerd like me.
Yeah. I think
So
often, it's a sort of sometimes you want to be I want to be a little contrarian, or rewrite history and with a different narrative of like how it goes or how it could have gone. So, and that would be like, just saying like something like a band like Faust or Can, when I was a young person, saying like, in your mind, those are better, bigger than the Beatles or something, or better, which is not. Everyone was wanting to sound like Sergeant Pepper at some moment, but meanwhile, these other things were going on. They were actually better. So, and I don't know. There's certain, and we see that in our culture anyway, where someone like Iggy Pop, just using him as an example, is now, was not particularly financially successful or didn't sell a lot, or people didn't know exactly who he was. But as we stand now, he's like as big as Paul McCartney in some ways, filling a different space. But
right.
yeah.
How many songs will you guys take on the road
For Pavement Reunion?
for Pavement Reunion?
A lot is the
Yeah.
idea.
Oh, cool.
Virtually everything's on the table, unless it's too hard to replicate, or maybe too much of a studio one-man band experiment. We might not do some of those, but yeah, I think anything's. We're bringing a friend of mine, Rebecca, on the keyboards, and so she's gonna play a lot of the piano and mellotrons and things that I played originally, and so that gives us
Cool.
more width in the catalog.
Yeah.
Because I'm just the piano player that plays to the track, and I can make decent parts, but I can't play it live. I have to just like figure it out and do it. I can't even remember the chords. I just put my hands on there. So she's going to be there. That leaves, songs like Motion Suggests Itself or Transport is Arranged. They have kind of important keyboard parts. It gives us options to do those kind of songs that we wouldn't have really we didn't bother trying to do back in the day. So in the end, we have to get down there and rehearse, which is going to be for a long time in May. Many days we're going to like be together trying to figure out what works. So that'll be a reason. That'll be a decision too. What we play well.
Will there be a tune-up show?
I don't think so.
No.
First show's in maybe in a small one in Spain or something, but I haven't. It's kind of hard to arrange. So we have rehearsals here in Portland, and then some fancier rehearsals on a stage for our backline lighting, lights and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're putting some production values into it, to I don't know. It's warranted by the ticket prices and how big we're playing. So
you're playing Massey Hall here in Toronto. I love it. I don't know if you've ever played Massey or been to it, but it's a historic building. It survived the pandemic because it was under renovations for the last 3 years. So they've restored it to all its beautiful glory. And you guys will be amongst the introductory acts.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Our booking agent is pretty, he that's what they care about, is the right place to put people. The right place to put their artists. So, and he's from Windsor originally, so I'm sure he picked like the best place in Canada.
It's definitely up there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, yeah. How much time do you have? Because I definitely don't want to,
maybe like 35 more minutes.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. All right. We got to talk about Harness Your Hopes.
Right.
Because this is sort of strange. So how has, overall, speaking to Harness Your Hopes, how do you feel about, the algorithm?
Fine.
Yeah.
I think the genesis of it becoming popular is probably, well, people just want to talk about the algorithm. I have a feeling it was probably just somebody at Spotify who was kind of a fan of the band, put it on a playlist, and then it was picked up from there. I wouldn't say it was anything beyond that, but I just have a feeling that there's always like sort of a human element to make something that small, that like sort of forgotten, be the most popular song on streaming platforms. I have a feeling there was somebody, middle management playlist person at Spotify, that was like, I love this song. And, it doesn't mean that it would like catch on so big, but it definitely, I mean, it's an odd thing to, with everybody in this business, you don't really know what your break's going to be. And you come from nothing to something, sort of quickly often. I've known people like MIA, Maya. I saw her before she was and she wasn't even a musician yet, and then and I wouldn't say she wasn't a musician, but it wasn't her. She wasn't thinking that was going to be her calling. She was like a fashion into fashion and just sort of into arts generally. And then like a year later, or two, she was like on the Super Bowl, performing. So, and a band like Guided by Voices, I was just reading a little thing about Propeller. It was a record they made in the 80s that sort of started them on their way to notice. But there's like little steps here and there where Guided by Voices hypothetically could have stayed an unknown garage band from Dayton instead of, as we know them, a band that's like recognized as genius and
Yes.
has been touring forever. And so there's little people hearing things or some breaks or whatever you call it. They have to happen. And so that song, like Harness Your Hopes, it could have stayed in obscurity and not been heard by anybody like a classic B-side, but for whatever reason, and not necessarily through the quality of it related to other things, it just sort of catches on. Algorithm related too, I suppose, but its initial start is mysterious how it becomes, or it's some kismet that makes it break through.
So does it? I mean, does it get a leg up in the scratching its way onto a set list by virtue of the fact that
I'm sure it will.
Oh, that's fun. Because would you guys have played it live like prior to that? No,
I don't think so. We have so many songs. I mean, I sort of forgot it from back in the day. I didn't. Well, the reason it wasn't on the album was like it could have been on. It was in the Bright in the Corners. Maybe it should have been on there instead of We Are Underused or something. But I something about my singing on it. I thought that my voice was mediocre on it or something. I can't remember what it was. I think
Harness?
at the time I was like, my singing's like not that good, and it was always, I don't even know if anyone else is on the song except me and the drummer. So that was another reason back then on Right in the Corners, we wanted to have everyone playing on the songs. Was a new idea for the band instead of just me and the drummer, and then building it up and having people drop parts in. So maybe, and then there was some odd stuff that even before, when we were mixing it, the engineer Bryce Goggin, he's the guy that is a great engineer and mixer, and he in the part that's my heart's wide open, he like cut tape out of the there were some tempo issues that were really glaring on the drums, and or it was maybe a decision of how to play it mixed with performance, and it sounded wrong, but he cut out tape in this old school way that now you would just use Pro Tools and make a couple of X's over and edit it, but back then it was still, and he made it sound really cool. It was his idea, I think, or our idea. And then the song kind of came together, but by then I already had in my mind what was going to go on the record.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Well, let's talk about Brighton for a minute, because it just turned 25. And I've got some accolades that I wrote down here. Pitchfork says the underrated record that signaled Pavement, the rock band, turned toward the serious and mature side was released 25 years ago today. I don't know if you know this, but it's Jewel's second favorite record of 1997. I've heard that before. In between Bob Dylan and Radiohead. So some pretty good company. And Rob Sheffield called it the ultimate Pavement record.
Yeah, Rob's always been an ally of mine. He actually lived in Charlottesville when I was going to school there. I think his wife at the time, she passed away, but I think she was teaching or studying there. So yeah, I think,
It's perfect. It's a
yeah,
perfect. It's a perfect record.
yeah, I thought a lot of stuff came out good on it. I think, there's weird stuff with some of the singing. Occasionally, I was sort of into the Incredible String Band, and I was really sometimes trying to push my voice and like on Type Slowly, and I sometimes was maybe going off too much. Um, but I think, and then I like, maybe Shady Lane. I remember doing that song, and it is good, but we had recorded it like the first day, and I was like, okay, it's done. And then we listened back, and then other people had to say, you know what, that's like a little slow and like kind of weak. You got to do that one again. So like I don't. Thank God someone did. It is better, but I guess what I'm saying is sometimes you have some blind spots in what you're doing that, in retrospect, you wish you could fix. But then, other tunes like Embassy Row, I mean, where did that come from? I'm happy that one's on there. And
Great song.
Finn, the last song, that guitar solo at the end is very lucky. Good solo. Just
Was that
no plan,
was that
just
spur of the
playing it.
moment? Oh
Yeah,
wow!
yeah. Those are, um, yeah. Maybe there was one take or two takes, but yeah, just step up to bat and see what comes out. So, um, some of those good things happen when there's other people in the studio and you're kind of trying to you're playing to, it's like playing to an audience, but just an audience of 3 instead of 3,000. But you get or 300, but you get sometimes you get good performances from that when, like, people are hanging out in the room, and you're just other things happen when no one's there. It's just like you and the engineer. But that was one I remember. I was like, yeah,
Well,
I need to show them how to play with feeling or whatever.
that's really cool to hear it from your perspective, because clearly, like, it landed. You know what I mean? Like it totally landed. And for you to say that in the studio you recorded it and sort of felt that, that's what a great feeling that must be.
Yeah, well, yeah, Bryce, the engineer Bryce, he was really good to work with too. He always like would appreciate things that were non-traditional. Um, Not everything had to be. I mean, he just, luckily he probably said do that Shady Lane again, but also, um, I think he was just like, would take what I gave him and like just assume it was good. I mean, I'll give him credit that maybe it was good, but also there are times people would be like, you can do better, like do another one. There's lots of times like that. You could sing that again and maybe you get a good result, but also maybe some spontaneity is lost in those times.
I gotta guess that's part of like learning the whole studio job, though, right? Like, you're a band, and one day you're playing on the stage in a high school, or whatever, and the next day you're going into a studio. I'm guessing that level of skill that is needed to be in a studio evolves over time, and
Yeah.
gets.
Well, I mean, there's tons of legendary engineers that are known for their vibe. Like if maybe you saw that Beatles thing, I think his name's
Yeah,
Glenn Johns, and he doesn't seem to be doing much except like he knows his compressors and stuff, but he dresses well and like
sure does.
he worked with the Stones or something. It makes you like feel confident. that it's going to be cool what you're doing. So, but obviously you want to have, I'm not trying to denigrate his engineer chops. He makes things sound great. And you always want, somebody that's, like with producers, I would want somebody that was, a sonic, architect or something, not to be, I don't think, the vibe merchants like Rick Rubin or something. I imagine he's probably kind of a vibe merchant more than a knob twiddler. That might, I don't know if that's the way to go, but I would tend to want to hire somebody that was like a kick-ass mixer, and also, you know what I mean, like the whole package.
Right. So like Bryce was, like in terms of
or Nigel Godrich is like that.
Godrich for sure.
He's a total genius. A genius engineer.
And we're going to get to hear some of that on the new reissue, right?
I guess so. I don't know.
Well, there's like some demos and outtakes. I'm pretty sure are on the set list. Yeah,
I'm sure. I don't know what ended up on there, but like,
that's great.
Yeah, they probably could. I'm sure they've tried to find what they could find. I think there's less stuff like available by that point, but
right.
But or it's lost a little bit. I mean, I had a bunch of digital audio tapes of demos, and I just couldn't find them for that album. I don't know where they went. But we did find some, and there's some interesting stuff.
They managed to put a few on there, so it's like we're all very hungry for it. We're voracious for sure. Okay, here's one for you. How is Steve Malkmus the Jick different, like a different artist than Steve Malkmus from Pavement? So I guess, like, how have you grown in terms of writing songs, and what does writing a song even look like for you? Is it riff? Is it cool lyrical phrase? Is it a melodic hook? Like, what does that look like for you?
I wouldn't really differentiate too much. My personal practice, it's all like, I mean, I just do the same pretty much. I get different, maybe I get different influences and tried some different instruments, and just like in Pavement, I would be aware of what's come before, and what I do well and what I could do better, maybe. So that would be maybe more on the musical side of it, not lyrics and songwriting, which I tend to I sort of differentiate lyrics and songwriting in my mind. The songwriting is sort of the music, and it's kind of a cliche thing to talk about music or lyrics first, but it sort of comes together. The songwriting comes together with holding the instruments in your hand, and sort of building melodies and a vibe. And then if something has a vibe, or what, I'm just going to use that term, then I would take the time to write some lyrics. Like, I'm probably not going to just write lyrics just to write lyrics. So that kind of system is the same all the way through till the end, and so I can't particularly differentiate. I would have to be differentiating like a critic from the outside. I wouldn't. I would, have to say this is more rock, or this is
that's fair.
Not as lo-fi, or this has we rehearsed more or something later. There's something like that. Maybe like in the Jigs, we did start rehearsing more as a ensemble, and that would be different. Oops. So I can see that, but there's not really that much different for me. Sorry.
Careful, whatever you're doing.
I'm making one of those nest cafes, but the water is running out. It looks like one of those pods.
It sounded far more dangerous than that, and I was just worried that.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
The water is out of it, but I got a shots. I got a espresso instead of a cup. It's all good.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
The fuel is the fuel. Okay, so it's Valentine's Day today. This is a tough one. You ready? It's Valentine's Day today.
Mm-hmm.
So, your favorite My Bloody Valentine's song?
I don't always know the names of their songs, but
oh my god, that's okay. So I got to tell you this because I was like, what if he says, "What's your favorite?" And I was like, I just know Loveless, like back to front, like
right.
I just know it as like one giant sort of like trip out song, like
yeah.
So I was like, I looked it up. I looked up a song title to have in my back pocket because I'm the exact same way. I don't think of their song titles.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be. I know what you mean, but the first song on that's like goes da 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 da. I don't know what it's called, or something off the Isn't Anything, like goes like I don't know what song it is.
Yeah, I
so
don't recognize
that would
it was.
Yeah, they had a issue with Spotify. There was a friend of mine works at Spotify, and she was down at this Wilco festival that we played at, and she was
Mexico. I was so jealous.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. But she was there, and like as we were working, as we were hanging out, this thing came about My Bloody Valentine was mad at Spotify for not having their lyrics correct, which
yes.
I've never looked at the lyrics on Spotify. I wouldn't even know to complain about that. I didn't even know they had lyrics on there. I have a family Spotify account because my kids use it, but I haven't interacted with it much. And we were sort of joking about how she would be have a lot of like hassle when she gets back to work, and then after that, then there was this big brouhaha over Joe Rogan.
Oh, right.
So I was like, then she was really fucked.
So what do you think?
Little did we know.
What do you think about Neil Young deciding to take a stand and
it's cool if he wants. I'm all for artists deciding what they want to do with their catalogs. Basically,
yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. I don't. I also don't have a problem with Joe Rogan being on Spotify. It doesn't really. Joe Rogan is Joe Rogan. It's not like I don't think he's like substantially evil or anything compared to so many other things. So like that wouldn't be my tipping point. I also don't know that much about him. I've seen him a couple times, and I don't know exactly what anti-vaxxers he had on there, but right. He seems like just a non-mainstream media person for a certain class of people or something, that they're going to get their stuff from him, that stuff no matter what is. But I don't know the exact specifics. I think
I think Neil took it personally because he was like a polio kid.
Yeah,
he was like a kid that at 4 years old had yeah. Well, that's why I brought it up, of course. So, all right, I got a couple other little questions for you, because one you just answered. You answered one of my more long form questions, which was, has the algorithm influenced the way you listen to music at all? But you made that very clear that
you don't really interact with Spotify or Apple
Not
Music or
much.
whatever.
I wouldn't, and I wouldn't. I mean, I've seen some good from it. With my daughter, would have some. Like she had a Sun City Girls song on her playlist, and I was like, "Where did that come?" I wouldn't. She would. I don't think she. It's not like she's looking at forced exposure or
Right.
some to find out about the history of the Sun City Girls, but they have some great songs, and I was like, "That's cool that you have them on your list." And she couldn't even really say. She's like, "I just heard it and I liked it," and so that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Not
I
all
mean,
death and gloom in the
no.
algorithm world.
I think the algorithm can be that cool dude that like used to work at the record shop that would like tip you off to things. But it can also be the asshole that worked at like Tower. You know what I mean? Like
That's true.
right.
Plus, I
like,
think kids, this younger generation of Zoomers or whatever you want to call them, they seem like. I mean, maybe I'm biased because they like things from the '90s, and I have a couple of them in my house. But they just seem cool, like, or just. I relate better to them than I did millennials in a certain way. Not in all ways, but they seemed clever in some way. I don't want to like get into a generational piss fight, but these kids, I sort of trust them to listen to. They don't really feel like they're being gamed by the algorithm. They like know what it is. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
I think so.
they don't. Yeah, I mean, I try to give people credit that are with Joe Rogan that way too, or something, but
Right. Yeah.
apparently it's not. Apparently we can't, or but yeah, so I don't really bother. Doesn't really bother, and also they get extreme. They get like bored by it too. It's not like they're I guess the same kind of story. They're not like slaves to it, It's just like she sort of moved on from Spotify in a certain way, or it's just
Right.
it's not like how she finds out about the world. I guess there's going to have to be some new algorithm or new way of presenting it, and they'll be psyched about it again. But
Well, I think it looks like it looks like it's happening, and it looks like it's vinyl.
fine. Well, CDs are back in too.
Well, so are cassettes to a certain degree, but like, I mean, that neither of those two things makes as much sense to me as vinyl, like, because you can gussy it up and make it sound prettier and, in your own house, like with different equipment. And like, it seems like the manufacturers and the apparatus should be all for this, but what do I know?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is another Pavement podcast out there. I don't know if you know of this podcast, but it's called The Pavement Conundrum, and they're amazing. They're in the UK. They're in Scotland. So they're in Scotland. Sorry, I'll edit that out. They're not in the UK. They're in Scotland, and they're also in Australia. So they're in a couple different places. So my first question would be: will you guys make it to Australia? And you can hold that thought. The second question is the bulk of this question is that they intro each of their shows by saying, "Welcome to the Pavement Conundrum," where we talk about prominent U.S. indie rock band Pavement. So prominent U.S. indie rock band Pavement. My show, I start by saying, where we're here to discuss the catalog of seminal indie rock band Pavement. So my question to you, Steve Malcolmus, is which is better, prominent or seminal? Which would you prefer to be?
I don't know. Seminole sometimes makes me think of semen. So
Yes, like, I know there's that. Yeah.
I guess I like seminal things though, as the real what it really means. Prominent. is there's a little bit more of a. It sounds a little bit like you're in your society and you're at the town meeting, and you come up to like speak about an issue, and they say he's like a prominent member of the society.
Right. Yes.
Um, which is nice if it's earned.
Right. You probably get fancy cheeses.
Yeah, if
when
it's
you do
earned
that.
through moral character and not just like through being a crooked politician or like a crypto billionaire or something who's I wouldn't want to be that prominent. Or Scrooge might be prominent, but he's not seminal. So I don't know. I would
Right.
just
So
say
it's a miss.
both.
So it's a
You
so
could
it's a
say
mystery.
prominent yet seminal.
There it is. From the horse's
That's a
mouth.
political answer.
You don't want to offend the fan base of the, I'm sure they're actually most of my listeners are in the UK, and Europe,
Interesting.
and Europe. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm in Toronto. So, okay. So there's a popular pub game that people play that has been modified by my friend, Marchica guitarist Pete Marchica, and given to me. He calls this game Listen To, Jam With, and Mute. So I'll do the same. So I'm going to name a trio of acts, and you have to name which one you would listen to, which one you would like to jam with, and which one you would likely mute.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
First trio. Mick Jagger, Brian Wilson, Paul McCartney.
I would jam with Mick Jagger. I know it's like not the right answer, and I would mute Paul McCartney. And what was the third one?
Brian Wilson.
And what would he do?
Oh, he would play. You would play. You would listen to.
I would just watch him play.
You would just listen to a record
or hang out with him. Yeah, I guess that would be it. I would just I'm a little tired of Paul McCartney. He's obviously amazing for so many reasons. There's no shame in like one guy muting Paul McCartney.
All right, next trio.
I'm a big Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger's like my favorite of those three guys. I think he's pretty underrated, like what he does. So, and I'm just like a big Stones fan of those classic rock bands.
I would love.
They're kind of my favorite. So
it would be so wild to see SM break out like some Mick Jagger moves during like Summer Babe or something once.
Yeah, he's he can shimmy too, right. Little guy.
Okay, the next trio: David Bowie, Lou Reed, Don Henley.
Well, Don Henley's obvious mute. The other two, it's what is it? Hang out with or jam with?
Oh, just listen to, or jam with.
I guess you'd probably want to jam with David Bowie because
I think so.
Well, there'd be more to learn hypothetically about like how his working methods. I think Lou's working methods are pretty transparent. So I wouldn't really need to see that, but
it's always great to listen to some Velvet.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, and the last one is a Canadian special.
Mm-hmm.
Gordon Lightfoot, Randy Bachman, or Burton Cummings?
Who's Burton Cummings? I'm supposed to know that.
The Guess Who.
Okay, well, he can... Randy Bachman and Burton Cummings, they're interchangeable to me in my mind because I don't...
Yeah, they're pretty much...
I don't really... Maybe... I mean, I do
should I give you like a Canadian trio?
They're big American women and stuff. It's cool, but it's all a little like ham and eggs, their whole thing. So,
all right, I'll give you a tougher one. Neil Young, Gord Downey.
Who's that?
Gord Downey is the lead singer of a band called the Tragically Hip.
Okay.
Which if you're like in a record store in the next little if you're in a record store in the next little bit, pick up the vinyl Day for Night. It's really good.
Okay, I've heard of them before. I just haven't heard them. I know that name. No. They're huge and they're really big in Canada. I know that. Maybe they're popular here too, but
no, they're not. They're like an arena band in Canada. They do like they'll do a 20-date cross country arena tour in Canada.
Yeah,
which
Britain,
you have done some
UK
tours.
has
it's like
groups. Yeah, UK has groups like that too. Like the Beautiful South is one that we've never heard of here, and they're just massive there. Kind of Blue-Eyed Soul. Yeah. So we got Neil Young, and so I would, like to jam with him, obviously.
Oh, that would be so cool to see, especially like Crazy Neil, like when he gets just like right in the solo, and he's like all crouched down and just sort of hammering at the guitar. Like I could totally see you jamming with him at that point. Like that would be just
he's pretty feral dude. I like him.
Yeah.
And I love Gordon Lightfoot too. So
Spiral told me that you used to play Gordon Lightfoot. You would noodle Gordon Lightfoot. You would play that because for some reason, last time I talked to Spiral Stairs, he said, or I made mention of The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, and he said you used to play that song.
I would do. I'm a big fan of Gordon Lightfoot. I think he's a cool dude. I watched his documentary like on YouTube or something. He's still kicking.
So he's the one who opened Massey Hall. When they reopened it, they made three-chord Gord came up and played.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And
he's a legend in my mind. I mean, he's really my parents had his album too, along with Jim Croce and Elton John's greatest. He was one of our greatest hits. That we had in my house, and I always sort of gravitated to it over the others, and still sticks. So it's a cool dude.
Totally. Well, you've been super generous with your time, so I want to thank you, and I want to get you out on time so that I don't tick you off in case I see you on the tour, because I'm going to the entire UK tour. Well, I'm trying to. I need just a couple other things to fall in place, and I'm starting in Leeds and going to work my way through. And I've never been to the UK, and I'm going solo. So,
I mean, if you're a Pavement fan, you'll find a lot of. I imagine you'll find a lot of camaraderie there, because we have pretty good fan from the time. There was a lot of singing along to songs and a British gig feel. I don't know. It's a little different than America.
Is it because of Peel still? Is it because the impact?
I don't think so. No? I think, some of that, but we probably earned it through some shows and some of the signifiers of the band. There's this kind of shaggy underdog mentality, of Bob Nastanovich and stuff, and the Brits love an underdog.
Yeah,
and I don't know. We just the time that it came up, we had good gigs there always. I don't know why. It's a give and feed. There's a lot of give and take in actual concerts. You feed off people's enthusiasm, and you tend to bloom a little more when if people show you. I mean, that's the same for anyone, even a kid giving a recital or a speech. People give you a couple of claps and then you're like, hey, I can embody this now. Let's do this. Yeah. And some of our earlier success was there and stuff, so it was nice. That was nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thanks so much.
No problem, dude. Just see you down the road, perhaps, and that's it.
I'll look for you for sure. Thanks, man.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.
Later, dude.
Bye.
Bye.
Meeting Malcolmus, a pavement podcast, is a weekly affair. Connect with JD at jd@meetingmalcolmus.com. Please support the pod by rating, reviewing, or sponsoring us at meetingmalcolmus.com. And hey, I'm social. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at Meeting Malcolmus.